glad to have you here. A little about today's program. Reverend Jackson will make a few remarks, and then Patrick Kennedy, our Director of Public Programming, will lead a question and answer session. So feel free to ask questions. We'll have microphones in the audience for people to ask questions. We're honored today to co-host this event with our neighbors at Philander Smith College. We have a long-standing partnership with Philander Smith, attend various events with each other, and it is always a pleasure to share in events with Philander. And to introduce our speaker is a very good friend of mine. At 37 years of age, Dr. Walter Ian Kimbrough became the 12th president of Philander Smith College. He's the first college president from the hip-hop generation, and he's one of the youngest college presidents in the nation. His bachelor's from the University of Georgia, his master's from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and his doctorate from Georgia State University. He's received numerous awards and recognition. We've worked together on the President's Dinner at Philander Smith when Walter was installed as Philander's president in one of the events held at the Clinton Library. He's really a wonderful citizen and a great addition to our city, and we're honored to share with him today. So please welcome the president of Philander Smith College, Dr. Walter Kimbrough.
Leader, a term often used but rarely understood. When asked to define it, most give the classic tautological definition. A leader is one who leads. This definition uses redundant language without providing any real meaning. Manning Marable in the text Black Leadership offers the best definition. He writes, "Leaders are essentially individuals who have the ability to understand their own times, who express or articulate programs and policies that reflect the perceived interests and desires of particular groups, and who devise instruments or political vehicles that enhance the capacity to achieve effective change." Jesse Jackson is a leader. As a young man, he clearly understood his times. This native of Greenville, South Carolina, assumed leadership roles as an undergraduate student at North Carolina A&T, including athlete, Omega Man, and student body president. Today's generation of students should be inspired by the fact that at age 22, he led a 10-month demonstration that included marches, sit-ins, and boycotts at area establishments that prohibited Black patrons. At 25, he became Chicago coordinator of SCLC's Operation Breadbasket, and a year later was its national director. For more than 40 years, Jackson has been a man called upon again and again to speak for the people. The defining moment was his historic 1984 run for the presidency. His ability to capture 21% of the total primary vote, 3.5 million votes, signified that his message resonated beyond the African American community. This momentum carried into 1988's presidential bid, this time garnering 7 million primary votes, including 3 times the number of white supporters as 1984, as he won 14 primaries while placing second in 36. His leadership always ends in action, devising vehicles for change. At only 26, in the wake of the death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Jackson created Operation Push, People United to Save Humanity. And in 1986, he founded the National Rainbow Coalition, devoted to social justice, education, mobilization, and empowerment. Jesse Jackson embodies leadership like very few, and has done so for decades. The November issue of Ebony magazine asks if he is out of touch or more relevant than ever. Well, consider the past 3 months. In August, he met with the president of Syria and the political leader of Hamas regarding captured soldiers. This past Sunday on his radio program, He interviewed embattled comic Michael Richards after his hate-filled tirade. Monday in Los Angeles, Jackson and other activists challenged African Americans to cease using the N-word. And yesterday in New York, he and Reverend Al Sharpton appeared with the family of 23-year-old Sean Bell, addressing curious circumstances around his shooting death the day of his wedding. This is leadership, not predicated on a title, but on expertise and ability. The only shortcoming in Marable's definition is that true leadership is a personal sacrifice. As Cornel West shared with Reverend Jackson on a televised symposium, and I quote, "If you decide that you are going to speak on behalf of a people that often hate themselves, there is a depth of commitment that is required. There is a cost that will be brought from you. So if you step up, you're going to live under the threat of death. If you don't love these people who often hate themselves, get off the stage and go on and make a career for yourself and talk about your accomplishments." As a young leader, this is one of the most painful lessons that we can learn. But I have learned from leaders who love unconditionally, and our guest today is the epitome. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Be with you here in Little Rock again. I've been here so many times across the years. Bishop, it's good to see you again. To my friend and brother, a huge force for social justice and emancipation of our minds and entertainment, who led so much of our efforts after Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis, the king of the Stax Records world, Al Bell. Al, please stand. Sharon, his brother Lydia, won't you stand too? This is an opportunity I did not want to miss to share with you today. And frankly, I'm more interested in the dialogue, Bishop, in Q&A than the lecture per se. To be part of the Clinton Library series has its own historic meaning for all of us. I think about Bill Clinton. Met him 20-odd years ago here in Little Rock when he was then governor. The things about him that stand out most to me is he has such a curious mind with an intense commitment to scholarship. Bill Clinton is in many ways a rare academic genius. If you were discussing zoology with a group of scientists, and then shifted to start talking to some farmers about agriculture, then shifted and started talking about world events, who scored the winning basket in the last NCAA tournament. He would be as strong in each direction as the scholars who've gathered. An intense commitment to scholarship. He has a curious mind, a will to win, a will to stay up all of the night, and to see sacrifice the will to sacrifice as an asset in greatness. The laws of convenience lead to collapse. The laws of sacrifice lead to greatness. All greatness is on the other side of the sacrifice barrier, that medical degree, that PhD, that law degree, that refined ministerial theological understanding, that construction engineering the inventions. All that is on the other side of sacrifice. The laws of convenience lead to collapse. And laws of sacrifice lead to greatness. He has an intense will to win. He has, amazingly, a world view. So many of us are locked into the map and we cannot see the world. We live within our own small circle of surroundings, within our own city, and define ourselves by that city or that town, by that state, or even by our nation. And Bill Clinton has this capacity to have a world view. In the real world order, as we fight for English only, as we fight to glorify one race or ethnic group over another, most people in our Father's world, in the world, half of all human beings are Asian, and half of them are Chinese, and they were not discovered by Nixon. 1/8 of the human race is African, 1/4 Nigerian, which we find in that continent, we find the earliest evidence of man as we know man, Homo sapien, to be from that continent. There are 1 billion people in India alone, twice more than the U.S. and the Russian republics combined. 2/3 of our neighbors in this hemisphere speak Spanish, which means English is a minority language in this hemisphere. Most people in the world today, are yellow, are brown, black, non-Christian, female, young, poor, and don't speak English. In that world, one cannot lead it from a nationalistic view or from a racial view. One must see the global world, which is the opportunity God has given to us. Bill has a sense of the rule of the cause and effect. And I hear senators arguing English only, performing in the Senate English only, and then they come right back and then say it's a Christian nation. Well, Jesus didn't speak English. Ten Commandments are not written in English. And so to be landlocked into one language is to miss the essence of the global view of our faith and all of its possibilities. And so, because he has the world view, it leads me into the words I was sharing with you before opening up for Q&A, is I think we have maybe 5 essential challenges today. One is learning to live together. That means unlearning the lessons of how to live apart. We've been taught to live apart. You put 2 seeds in the ground of equal strength, and you put a wall between them, and you water both. And one will grow tall with strong stems and limbs, and one will not grow as tall. It does not mean the taller one is better than the shorter one. It means the taller one had access to something called photosynthesis, something called light. And when the wall comes down, both can grow tall, and there are multiples of fruit. We have been taught to live apart by law, by culture, by religion, by sick habits. Our nation engaged in the act of legal slavery for 246 years. And in that, we were taught that the whites were supreme and blacks were inferior. We were taught that with misinterpretation of Scripture. We were taught that with pseudoscience. We were taught to live apart. So unlearning those lessons is a key to healing, learning to live together. And when we are on the big stage of life, when University of Arkansas was winning basketball championships, as the case may have been, and why could these kids from rural Arkansas, as it were, rule the roost? And they could play UCLA, they could play whomever, from California, from New York, from Georgia, and how could they win the big games, the saw Scottie Pippen in the airport. How could he become the best on earth at that which he did from rural Arkansas? The best on earth at that which he did. Michael could not have won those championships without Scottie Pippen. But they were co-partners in that process. How could he come from rural Arkansas on the short side of that fence where there was less sunshine and less opportunity? But how could he become the best basketball player on earth? How could Tiger Woods become the best golfer on earth? How could these black kids from these depressed conditions and torn homes and all of that become the best football players, basketball on earth? How could these poor kids from Venezuela become the best baseball players on earth? 75 Venezuelan baseball players in the major league, 75 in Venezuela alone. How could they come, the poorest kids from rural America and from Asia and from African Americans and rural whites, how could they become the best in the world at that, with all the world competition? Because whenever the playing field is even and the rules are public and the goals are clear, we can all excel. If, however, on that football field, the blacks had to run 12 yards for a first down, prove something special, and whites had to run 8 yards because they inherited some yards, we'd be fighting on the football field. Long as it's 10 yards for all first downs, and 6 points for all touchdowns, the winner can win, the loser can lose. It's never a fight after the game. You're broken-hearted because you beat Alabama, you're excited you lost this year, you're broken-hearted, but it'll be another year. There's no sense of rancor. There's no sense of riot when the game is over, because the field was even. And the rules are public and the goals are clear. That is not as true as one seeks access to prenatal care, Head Start, daycare, and academic learning. That's not as true in our pursuit of being a lawyer or becoming a doctor. That is not as true in life options. And so one of our challenges is to do an awesome thing, learning to live together. When Jerry Rice was playing football with the 49ers and young, and he's rural Mississippi, if the quarterback had hesitated for a split second on not throwing the ball to him because he was black, or if he had dropped some balls because the quarterback was white, they couldn't have been champions. When the field was even, they learned to live together. We didn't know how good baseball could be till everybody could play. Major League Baseball started in 1947. The warm-ups until that time. There was ethnic intramural games. There was white leagues and black leagues and Latin leagues and Asian leagues. And each was the best in his or her own little league, but we did not know how good baseball could be until everybody could play on the same field. Now we know who the best ball players are. We don't know how good Joe DiMaggio was because he didn't face Satchel Paige. We don't know how well Ty Cobb can run baseball. He didn't run on Josh Gibson. We really do not know. We're in the mystery of our ignorance until we pull the walls down. And so, learning to live together, and the second one is shared economic security. So much of our anxiety comes from economic insecurity. The rich are getting richer not because they're working harder, and the poor are not getting poorer because they're not working as hard. The tax laws amounts to legalized robbery. And so we export jobs and capital and import cheap labor and cheap product. And while the rich abound in their tax cuts, the poor get job cuts and benefit cuts. Yet at wartime, the rich go to the big school and the poor go to war. There's something fundamentally unjust about that. And so we fight for shared economic security. Why can't we fight for a livable wage for all workers? A servant is worth of his hire. Those who people ought to work, and those who work ought to get paid. And health insurance. For those who pick and choose those scriptures to fit their own purposes, Jesus made some things fairly clear. That you measure character, not by how you look, not by what your gender is, not by what your sex preference is, but by how you treat the least, how you treat the lost sheep. Your character is measured not by how you give awards to those sheep that got there first. He may have got there first because he had advantages. The one who got there last may have been crippled, hurt, maimed, bitten by a snake. He measured character by how you treat the least of these, not by what you accumulate, but by what you share. And so, one challenge is learning to live together. Another is something called shared economic security. And the rich are beating up on the poor and making them feel not so good about themselves. Most poor people are not on welfare. They work every day. They raise other people's children. They work every day. They catch the early bus. They work every day. They cut other people's grass and only have no grass to cut in their own yard. They work every day. They work every day. They work at Walmart and can't get health insurance for their families. They work every day now. They work every day. Most poor folks are not on welfare. They work every day. They work in some fast food restaurant. They work every day. They work in the hospital. When you come in that sick with insurance, they wipe your fever and lower it. They cool your scorching fever. They empty your bedpans, your slop jars. They clean your disease sheets, no job is beneath them. And yet when they get sick, they cannot lie in the bed they make up every day. It's time for a change. We all should have health. A well body costs less than a sick body. Sickness undermines productivity, besides it's immoral. When health care is available, the rich get checkups from sickness they might have. Eventually, the poor can't get treatment for the sickness they have right now. There's something that started about. Most poor folks are not on welfare, they work, and most poor folks are not black. In America, they're not black. A coal miner dies every 6 hours from black lung disease. A coal miner dies every 6 hours from black lung disease. Most poor people in America are white and female and young. And so we must have a view bigger than look at America. We must not see America through a keyhole, we see America through a door. We see ourselves through keyholes and not through doors. We not see the wholeness of our possibilities. We didn't know how good baseball could be. Everybody can play. Access to education. Ignorance costs. Ignorance is not less, ignorance is expensive and deadly. Strong minds break strong chains. Some mind left undeveloped because of poverty could have been the mind that found the cure for AIDS. Some mind left undeveloped could have found the cure for cancer. Some mind. 500,000 do die a year from cancer in America. 500,000 a year. 1.4 million new cases of cancer each year. 200,000 new cases of breast cancer a year. Increasingly men. 40,000 deaths a year from cancer. Some mind left undeveloped. Be careful how you treat the poor. You do know Jesus was born in the slum. On the controversy about who his daddy was. Born in the slum. Slum was not born in him. Look at the genius Rome killed. Rome is the genius because of his poverty and his ethnicity. Don't make Rome's mistake and leave out some genius who may not be of your ethnicity or of your gender or from your side of town. That's the risk you run when you leave denied access to education. Strong minds break strong chains. Healthcare. We must change our minds about our healthcare system. It's not working for us. Prenatal care, Head Start, daycare on the front side. Makes more sense than jail care and welfare on the backside. We must shift our fundamental. And lastly, world peace. Under Bill Clinton, we were at peace or in dialogue with more nations than any time in recent history. Because he saw others as neighbors, not as aliens. Say neighbors, not aliens. Neighbors, not aliens. Because he could engage Africa for its potential and its possibility and its market strength. He could engage Asia. He could engage the Middle East. We missed Middle East presidential engagement last 6 years. That's why the Middle East today is imploding. There's been no light in a dark place for 6 years. And then we come running when it's on fire with a hose that does not have enough water in it. Too little and very late. It's clear we were on the wrong course when a few months after Mr. Bush had got the election with the least amount of votes in 2000 and would not send a delegation. We're paying the price for that. With the winner lost and the loser won, we're paying the price for that. We put a blessing on our best, we're paying for it today. We would not send a delegation to the UN Conference on Racism in South Africa. Chose to be absent from a UN Conference on Racism in South Africa. That signal was suggested. We said to the Kyoto Treaty, Environmental Treaty, our way or the highway, dismissing people. 9/11 came and we felt the pain of just how small our world is. The pain for the enemy on the outside, the enemy was already inside. They didn't come from yonder, they came from here. We were killed. We went dashing off looking for the guy we knew who sent them here. We knew who Ben Laden was, we had the training. We knew what weapons he had, we had the receipts. He was our ally in the war in Chechnya. We knew we knew what he could do, we trained him. But amazingly, we left the man who hit us and we chased the man who did not on some predisposition towards war, and now we're trapped in Iraq. Lives went fast, but they got short legs. Here we are today losing lives and money and honor and nowhere to go. We chose corrupted Iraqi exiles over UN scientists. Now we're paying a price. The president last night was to have dinner. Man said, eat by yourself. Symbolic of world isolation. He said it's not a civil war. Colin Powell said in the Bible, he said it is civil war. It's not just civil war, but even worse than that. Lied, alibied, denied, and spied. We deserve better leadership. We are a better nation than our leadership. And so it is, in some sense, our challenge to have a one big tent America. We've had this tension, this identity crisis from the very beginning. Who are we? Are we to be a nation of slaves or a nation of free people? We couldn't quite answer that question and end up with a civil war. We couldn't. Are we going to be a union? Are we going to be states? Are we going to be a more perfect union, or are we going to be states' rights? Are we going to pursue Abe Lincoln or Jefferson Davis? The two competing views. Who are we going to be? Are we going to have one big tent for all Americans, or are we going to have bits and pieces for those left out and kingdom for those locked in? Shall we be a more perfect union, or shall we be in fact locked out into little bits and pieces? It's our challenge today to choose to be a more perfect union. I wish that Arkansas was our house is the Clinton Library. So this is our library. And now says he's from Hope, Arkansas. He's our guy. And look what Arkansas can produce. If you really love him, if you love him, you should follow him and not just admire him. I say if you really love him, you should follow him and not just, how can Arkansas, with all this poverty, all these working poor people, still vote for the wealthy to get tax cuts while you get job cuts, benefit cuts, and job loss? If Arkansas would become in the winner's circle, we'd win the whole nation back. If just Arkansas would follow Clinton, just Arkansas alone, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in today. If this state alone followed Clinton, if it followed him and not just admired him, we would not be mired in the mess in Iraq today. We're paying a big price for choosing to admire and not just to follow. Particularly when the following has led us to more economic prosperity, more inclusion, less chaos and more peace, and more stature in the world. Arkansas has that challenge today. We've had the last few days some events that challenge, test the fiber of our definition of who we are. We've seen the case of the Michael Richards meltdown in California. They say, well, he's just a comic. Often comedy masks tragedy. This meltdown this guy had on the stage. I said, why did you do this? Why are you so angry with blacks? And blacks raped you or molested you or robbed you or hurt you. Why are you so angry? He said, I can't quite explain it. It's just inner rage. I don't understand it. So you need to see a psychiatrist because lie on the couch and talk this thing out. He has an inner conflict. He has digested the culture, and now he's indigestion. He has inner conflict. I said, why did you keep saying the word nigger? He said, because I wanted to. They didn't laugh at my jokes. They thought that was not funny. So I wanted to punish them. The use of the word, the N-word, to punish. That's what we must determine that the N-word is hate speech. Whether it's hate or self-hate, we must stop using that word. We must stop it. Every disc jockey, every artist, we must stop using hate. In a multicultural society, where we must learn to live together, and there are blacks and whites and Latinos and Asians, we must learn to be supportive and not violent. And so that word is hate speech. As well, protected by the First Amendment, I think not. There's some unprotected speech. Speech that slanders, injures, hurts, incites violence is not protected. That should be declared to be hate speech. And then this jockey should not play records that have it in there. It starts right there. An artist should not cut it. Producer should not produce it. We cannot. We spend all of our lives building up walls of protection from violation. It took us a long time from being called old Mose and old Mosella and old Nig and nigger and all that stuff. But I put a handle on my name. I'm Deacon Jones. I'm the trustee. I'm the steward. I'm Reverend. I'm Doctor. I'm Mr. I'm Mrs. I'm an honorable lawyer. I'm a judge now. We go from building this wall, now we're going to tear the wall down with self-degradation and then sell the bricks. I got a right to denigrate. You have a right to smoke, but not to blow it in my face, because secondhand smoke kills just like firsthand smoke kills. We have the obligation to lift up, not to tear down. And of course, when we say in the name of self-hate, I have a right, because it's my way of turning mess into something delicious. You cannot put spice and sugar on mess and make anything other than what it is. It's sugar mess. We must end the mess. just get too hung up on the comedian because he symbolizes something. While he had a meltdown, Katrina was a meltdown. The whole world saw it. The president looked at people floating on water and saw them dying at his Crawfordville ranch. Couldn't move. Chavez got resources to New Orleans from Venezuela quickly, and Bush got them from Texas. And the media saw citizens and called them refugees. They didn't get it either. So it's not, don't just focus on the comment while you focus on him. Trent Lott comes back in again as the number 2 senator elected by the Republicans, who in fact, Trent Lott, who now has 24-hour access to the president, to the White House, to Secretary of State. Trent Lott, who led Reagan to Philadelphia, Mississippi, where Swearingen Goodman Cheney were killed, made that statement. Trent Lott, who led the drive to support Bob Jones University, would not be open in its admission. Trent Lott, who led the drive against the King holiday. Trent Lott, who chose to embrace Thurman, who fought to keep lynching from becoming federal crime. Trent Lott, he is now, and so we focus all the time on the comedian and miss the man who has real power, who can determine who judges are. And appropriations. Don't stop there. If you look at the Super Bowl, you see us black and white and brown. Given Sunday afternoon. Arkansas plays Alabama, and we are black and white together. But you look at nighttime television. We had a senior hall 15 years ago. Not one black comic on nighttime television. Why could Clinton go to a senior show and do the saxophone act back in '92? Because the senior had a niche market. We don't have that market anymore. You look at now, we have more TV, we have more cables. In the exception of Robin Roberts on ABC in the morning, there's not a single black or Latino hosted TV show. Not one. All day, all night, all white. We deserve better than that as a nation. Because by denying access to media, we build that wall that keeps one taught and one short, and both feeling anxious about the other. The media projects blacks in about 5 deadly ways every day. We're projected as less intelligent than we are, less hardworking than we work, less universal, less patriotic, and more violent because of these cultural limitations. And so it is that don't just stop at the comedian who had the meltdown, whose ice was thin. It didn't take much heat for him to melt. But he represents more of a symbol than an aberration. Because on one hand, you look at this guy and say, well, this is a crazy comedian. But when Harold Ford was about to win that Tennessee, the Republican Party intelligentsia had a meeting. They put together an ad that conjured up the worst fears about the white woman, the black man, and they drove the official racism at the highest levels of the party. Don't just stay with the comedian now. Look at the Harold race. Don't stop there. A woman, 90 years old, shot, killed in Atlanta because of a corrupt informant. Bad information. You mean a guy coming from his wedding party in New York, shot 50 times, no gun, no drugs, no knives, no record of violence. Like Diallo shot a few years ago, 41 times in New York, no guns. Like Anna Louise in police custody, ran the record to the nearly bled to death a few years ago. This kind of anti-black mania undermines the hope of our nation. I close on this note. There are not enough of us to destroy each other in practice. We are Americans. We're 6% of the world's population. We're 6%. The Russian republics are 6%. Which means there's 7/8 other than Americans, other North Americans. Which means that we are a minority in the world community. When Putin and Bush meet, that's a minority meeting. So most folks in the world are not going to accept dictates from the 1/8 anymore. That's the New World Order. And while we're hearing today with all this about losing our farms in Arkansas, losing our corporations, because we've globalized capital, we've not globalized human rights. We've not globalized workers' rights. We've not globalized health protection. And so in that distortion, in that awkwardness, we find an immigration crisis because the world is imbalanced. On one side you got tall grass, on the other side you got nothing but sand. Those with sand want green grass. When you drop over into Mexico, you drop over in there NAFTA, you drop over in there American subsidized farms. Those farmers run where the grass is greener to make a living. So the world is too delicately put to be undermined in that way. Two things come to my mind. Open. One, always searching for some formula. And Bishop, we run to some faraway place and ask some scholar to help us figure out some of the words we can understand. Chronicles puts it fairly clear. So there's my people, which is an assumption, who are called by my name. You see, all God's children will just humble themselves, as opposed to arrogance, humility, humble themselves. I am what I am because you're what you are, and together we're much more than either of us is by ourselves. And so, if my people who call by my name will humble themselves and pray. Wow, pray. Didn't say curse. Didn't say name call. Pray. And it didn't say ask God to give you your answer back. Pray. And seek my face. And then do something fundamental. Turn from your wicked ways. And racism is wicked. Sexism is wicked. Dropping bombs on Grenada, Panama, killing folks just because we can. That's wicked. Rich folks take power and give themselves tax cuts and take away your job. That's wicked. So if you would just turn from your wicked ways, then God will forgive you for your sins. And guess what happened then? Then God will heal your land. He will heal your land. I think in the end, this thing really is about character. And we often try to define it in these campaigns, character based upon some incident we found in somebody's life to prove they were not perfect. But there is another way of doing it, and Jesus had another way. He said that one day a man was coming down the street tending his business, and two thieves plotted and robbed him and beat him and left him to die. The fact is that that road had a better structure, more lights. They couldn't have kept hiding back there. That's why infrastructure is important, y'all. You're jumping behind a blind corner should have been blind. A dark corner that should have been lit. It should have had some lights there, you know. But they beat left him to die. And while laying there bleeding and dying, the Bible suggests that he was lying there and in his gasping for breath, he looked up and saw a man of religion, of his own religion, my own holy man, my own prosperity gospel preacher. Here come Reverend down the street, and with his clean robe on and his due, my kind of Reverend, and he said, the Bible said he went to the other side of the street, kept walking, looking heaven to go in hell with, because he would not stop to deal with a bleeding man. And then another man of his own ethnic group, my own soul brother, soul brother went to the other side, kept walking too, the Levite. Another man came from another country who spoke another language, who worshiped God differently, who didn't have a green card. And he helped him up, the Samaritan, and sent him on his way. Beyond color and culture, there's something called character. That's at the heart of love, this character factor. You can't have that unless you care. And so it reminded me when, because some of us don't engage in authentic character, when we see it, we don't recognize it. Rodney King driving down the highway, 4 white police beat him nearly to death. It's a racist act. But don't assume all whites are racist on that basis, because some white photographer heard him moaning. He heard the licks beating him. And this white photographer looked out of his window. He could have said, that Negro is out here for no good, and they caught him. He could have said, I'm not going to get in trouble. He could have said, I don't know the circumstance. He could have said that it's more of them than me. But some mother or father's admonition about what was right, some minister's lesson about what was just, he took a picture of it. That's why you saw Rodney King, because some white photographer went beyond color and cultured the character. And then when they were set free for having beaten him, and everybody saw it on video, they were set free, there was a riot. People lost it. 55 were killed. And blacks exploded, and a white man came together and they began to beat him with a brick, trying to kill him. And 4 young men who didn't know each other saw it live on television, and they rushed and saved him from them and took him to the hospital real fast, where some black affirmative action doctor saved his life through surgery. Beyond color and culture is something called character. Thank you very much.
Mics, raise your hand, and one over here, one back here. Raise your hand and we'll pass around the mic. And let's.
Thank you so much. Always a very powerful, right now, this is what we need to do presentation. I appreciate that, and we all do. What is your view on how we should address the immigration issue of Mexico? This wall that they're talking about building, and maybe they won't if it doesn't get through this Congress. How should we address the immigration issue that we're dealing with Mexico? We have a rising Latino population here in Arkansas.
Most of our schools have cut trade skill training out, right? You no longer can go to school and learn how to become a brick mason or a plasterer, right? Or become a plumber. So if they build a wall in Mexico, we're going to have to build it. We can't even build a wall. It doesn't make sense. We can't even build a wall because we're not being taught how to build a wall. So we're not being taught how to build a wall. That's my first answer. My second is that Mexico is our next door neighbor. We do not want to create official alienation between us and our populous next door neighbor. Now they're coming looking for jobs. Suppose they were coming looking to do harm because we became embittered and alienated one from the other. Why are they coming? Because we share 2,000 miles of border with Mexico. The biggest gap between a have and a have-not nation in the world. In Europe, when they came together, they lifted up their neighbor. For them to build a wall between them and their neighbor. Walls don't work. When you're locking out culture, or it's the Berlin Wall, walls don't work. And so we need to be building bridges and not walls. And it might be to our interest. It might be to our interest to invest in Mexico's development, which means they might stay home and give us more market to grow toward. Why do we invest so much money in the Marshall Plan after World War II? It was not just that they had been devastated by the war and by the Germans and all of that. We made available to Europe 50-year loans at 2% government secured. You couldn't figure out how to flunk with that. A 50-year loan, 2% government secured. Why did we do it? Because it made Europe secure, but gave us a market to grow to. So if Mexico is secure and growing, we can grow. So the wall limits us and limits Mexico. And so I think that idea that we're going to don't have no wall between us and Canada. And we got more miles between the U.S. and Canada than the U.S. and Mexico. And the evidence of some terrorist activity that's been found came north-south, not south-north. The evidence of some rumblings about terrorism came north-south, not south-north. So we would be better to see Mexico as our struggling, impoverished neighbor and build them up. And when they build up, guess what? They can buy what we produce. They become strong, and we become strong. It's almost like this affirmative action fight, which has been reduced to a race issue. Jesse Ham's running against Gant. He shows a black hand, pushes a white hand. White people start running from the black hand taking over. The automotive jobs didn't go from whites to blacks. They went from here to yonder. The shoe manufacturing jobs didn't go from white to black. They went from here to Indonesia and Taiwan and South Korea. They went to globalization. Besides, affirmative action affirmative action is a majority, not a minority issue. Affirmative action is a majority, not a minority. Affirmative action is number one, Title IX, mostly white women and women of other hues. University of Arkansas has a girls' basketball team right now, right? Right? It's illegal not to have one. Whatever the boys have at University of Arkansas, girls have. By law, Title IX. The girls' swimming team in school, tennis, golf. So now your little girls can get a scholarship like your little boys can, because it's illegal. It's affirmative action. Title IX. That's why they got a girls' basketball team at that school. That's why they got a girls' swimming team at that school, and girls' track and all. Title IX is female, majority white, and women of other hues, plus Title VII, which makes it a majority issue. Watch this. When we educate the majority of Americans, we become more productive and more competitive and a stronger consumer market. So if you left the majority uneducated and unproductive, they couldn't compete and they couldn't consume. And guess what then? Now we got to send for some guest workers because we're not training our own. Say, when we do not train Americans, we then send for guest workers. You know one reason why the Mexican issue is not going in? Because we're sending for them. We're lying about it. In the service industry, we're sending for them. In the agricultural industry, we're sending for them. In the construction industry, we're sending for them. And we need them. They're called guest workers. We're sending for them. Because even in Iraq today, there's something called green card soldiers. When they come across the border and join the military to go to Iraq, they get bonuses. We got Mexicans in the U.S. military who are not citizens, and when they die, they get citizenship as they've been lowered to the ground. Let the Gazette tell that, because that's the real deal now. That's the real deal. These are our neighbors. So figuring out how to lock them out, and if we even the playing field, they won't stay home anyhow. Why are so many people like Alabama? Why all these black people come back to Arkansas? Because it's livable now. I mean, they didn't want to go to New York in the first place. They want to go to Chicago in the first place, but couldn't stay down here. But now this is relatively simple, and you can get a job and grow and go to school, people coming back home. And so the migration was driven by desperation, not by desire to leave home. People like to stay close to where they're born. Am I here by myself? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing with us today. I want to know, how do we address the Iraq issue? How do we get out?
Wow, I should not add that. I was in Syria about 2 months ago when the first issue is, University of Arkansas, what are your school colors? Huh? Red and white. And what's Georgia Tech's? Black and yellow, black and gold. If you play Georgia Tech at University of Arkansas and call Georgia Tech the home team, wouldn't it look kind of off? University of Arkansas, in Arkansas, the away team. I'll let that sink in. I mean, if you listen, the folks from Arkansas, in Arkansas were the insurgents, and Georgia Tech was the home team. Wouldn't that be a little off? I'm going somewhere with this, y'all. I was in Syria going down the highway in Jordan, going towards Syria, going toward Lebanon, and the sign said Iraq and Syria, fork of the road. People, when we bomb Lebanon, or allowed to be bombed, folk run over into Syria. It's next door, it's just across the hill. When we bomb Iraq, they run across the road over into Syria. That's the next door. And they all speak the same language. So, and all of them speak Arabic. And most of them are Muslim. Here we're over there and don't want to be. We are 10,000 miles from home. We're the home team. And they're the insurgents. Ain't something wrong with that. If the home team become the home team and the real insurgents go home, there'll be peace in the valley. Y'all know we ain't got no business of that. Like the people, like that they the away team. Y'all say people coming to Iraq, from Iraq, is the home team. We're going to save them from themselves and kill about 600,000. We've killed 600,000+ people and 3,000 of our own. We refuse to count those that we killed there and will not see let the caskets be shown of those killed from here when they come back home. We deserve better than this, friends. And guess what? Not only is it politically wrong, God ain't pleased. I mean, God ain't pleased. Some terrible things can come your way. We're not so arrogant as to defy the laws of God. We have no right to kill them just because we can. In the name of Yes, sir. He needs a mic. I really can't see that for us, just a blur in my eyes and going into another gear now.
Reverend Jackson, I got up this morning at 3 o'clock, and maybe you did too, in order to listen to my Pope. It was the most incredible thing that's happened since in our church, in the Orthodox churches, since 1054. There's been an animosity. Let's face it, it's a hatred. Because, you know, the Catholics think, we think we got it and everything. And the Holy Father came up with a very special solution. You know, we talk about the two brothers, Peter and Andrew. You're a reverend, and you know this situation. And they're two apostles, and they're equals as apostles. They're both apostles. And that's what Benedict stressed in this fantastic talk and fantastic thing that happened. Now, they say it happened because there happened to be a feeling of love between them. Somehow or another, this hasn't happened with the Catholics and Orthodox in at least 1,000 years. It goes way back to the beginning of Christianity, actually. And you yourself, I think, have been sent to places to do some, what do you call it, PR work, not PR, but trying to get with the other people. You were sent not too long ago, I think, to, was it Iran or somewhere?
I brought America's home.
But anyhow,
I went to Syria,
and
Cuba, and Iraq, and Yugoslavia, and brought some folk back home.
Now, the idea was now. See, we just heard our president say he's going to hold back the Scotch from what's his name in North Korea? Whatever his name is. what if the president, or he sent you or somebody to say, hey, listen, instead of blocking your scotch, why don't I invite you over to the ranch for scotch? It doesn't happen that way, does it? People like you can do it. Maybe I could do it. But you see, it's interesting that the heads of two churches, this Orthodox, is no little man. He has a congregation of about 3,000 people in Turkey, in Istanbul. He is actually the ecumenical patriarch of the East.
Yes, and what's your point?
The point is, how can we send people like you, President first, I'd love for him to do it, and maybe we can encourage him, as people who voted for him. I voted for him because he's very pro-life. Maybe we can encourage him to do that kind of thing with G.
I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's hard to be pro-life and pro-invade Iraq and kill all them people. That's when I think this weekend the Cowboys play the Giants. Just a lot of us watch the games. And when Paul says looks down the bench, if he decided he didn't like Terrell Owens and therefore send in a lesser player, and the lesser player couldn't run and couldn't catch, then he'll lose the game because of his own arrogance. As a coach, he has obligation to play the best players available. I submit to you today, if President Bush sent Jimmy Carter to North Korea, he has rapport with them. If he sent Bill Clinton to the Middle East, but Bill Clinton has rapport and credibility. I would love to go to Venezuela and help reduce that tension, because I know how. I grew up learning to survive under the oppressive hand of the power structure. I'm not bilingual, I am bicultural. I know how to deal with both sides of the track. I lived on one side of the track and worked on the other side, so I understand both sides of the culture, understand? And sometimes to negotiate, you have to be, first of all, I must respect your person, even though I may disagree with your point of view. But also, I must realize I need you. And need affects my temperament. How can I put this thing? When you're working with somebody, they got all the odds, and all you can do is wait till you live on tips. You're going to be a smart, humble servant. And try to save you some money till you get out of money. You don't be running cussing out the guy who got the tip. Because you don't like him. No, if you're waiting tables, you figure out how to get on and say yes or no, sir, because you're trying to survive. And sometimes I think we don't know how, as a nation, to be humble enough to build relationships. Here's what I mean by that. When I went to see Assad in Syria, and I knew he had the power to release Goodman, he had all the cards. We couldn't get him out unless we bombed. I had to give deference to him. I had to find out what was making him feel. I found out that there's no contact between him and our government, and that was a problem. I found out that we had underestimated their religious leaders, and that was a problem. I found out there was a lot of poverty there, and there was a tension there. And I found out that there's intelligence deficits. And so I kind of got into him. I said, Mr. Assad, please let this man go. I said, damn it, let him go now. I said, please let him go. And I said, I think it's a good thing. I said, because I think whenever you open the door, it creates new possibilities. Please let him go. He said, yes, I know what you're saying. You're my friend. I'm almost persuaded. I said, don't go almost, like arguing with Agrippa. I said, go all together. No description of that. He said, but I'm not sure I can do it. I said, but there was another man on the Damascus Road, but we were in Damascus, you know. I said, and another man who fell off his horse, he could make up his mind one day. He fell off the horse and woke up. I want you to wake up now. You fell off the horse. Let's get up now. I was talking, you understood, you understand? Because I come out of that situation. And so he finally let him go. And each time I brought Americans home, whether it was Cuba or Yugoslavia, because I had to figure out how to get inside the opposition and get humble, because sometimes you have to stoop, crawl before you jump. And I contrast McCain one night, was on Larry King's show. This is no put down on him, it says a lot about leadership. Larry King said, we were trying to get a white guy from Mississippi who was in prison, in captivity, should I say, in Iraq, early on as the war started. And I was trying to get him out, and others trying to get him out. And so Larry King said, McCain, so right now, you know, the captors of the guy in Iraq may be watching the show right now, because CNN is seeing all over that. He said, if the captors were looking at us right now, what would you say to them? McCain said, I would say, you're holding an American unjustly, and if you do not turn him loose, there's going to be some hereafter. I said, how are you over here, 10,000 miles away, talking in the dark, threatening somebody? He didn't mean no harm, he just didn't, he ain't waited tables. So I said, well, Reverend Jackson, say, you know, how you going to look, let me tell y'all something. So you talk about terrorists. I do. Grew up on the lot of them, by the way. And, if the terrorists had my brother, and the terrorist was the devil was the only one that could turn the fire, I'd go to hell and talk with the devil, get my brother. I'd even give him a song if he wanted to dance. If he the only one had the fire extinguisher, I'd talk to him. I wouldn't believe in him. I wouldn't like him. I wouldn't want to stay long. But I make him say, sometimes we can't solve problems because we're too arrogant. All these instant divorces. The worst thing that can happen in a relationship is a woman that catches somebody and he get mad because he know he's guilty. I shouldn't go on that show. I mean, there's more stuff when you really get caught than if you was innocent. Arrogance blinds. Yes, sir.
We have to, Reverend Jackson. Last question.
Man, sit down. I'm just teasing the girl.
I'm just curious, who do you see on the political horizon of our country to be who shows the most promise for leadership in our country in the next few years?
Well, the reason I don't want to answer it because this is not an occasion to be endorsing anybody. I would say today the issue is not so much who, but what. Whoever has the most commitment to create incentives to end poverty in our country, who has the most plan and commitment to broaden the base of health care coverage for all Americans, who has the most commitment to raise livable wages for the working poor, or a plan to build affordable housing for Americans, to make more education more accessible to more people. You know, when we make it more difficult to get into college because we charge interest on tuition and reduce Pell Grants, we make it hard to get to college and easier to go to war. We make it harder to go to college and easier to go to war. There's something about that that's retarded. Whoever has the best plan, therefore, to put forth a coalition for economic security for all Americans. So we're fighting, I would rather fight the right fight and lose, than the wrong fight and win. And sometimes we've been fighting in the name of morality, the wrong fight. Let me ask you a question before I go, y'all. Ask a question. Let me ask one. How many of you think people who work should make a livable wage? Raise your hand. Folks who work should make a livable wage. And How many of you think we should reduce tuition costs for college? How many of you support affirmative action? How many think we should make it easier to go to medical school? You do know that in India, the reason why there's so many Pakistani and Indian doctors, you know, that's the reason why, y'all. They pay them $40,000 a year to go to med school. We pay $100,000 to go. So some of our best minds can't afford to go, and they got a surplus of doctors. All right. How many of you think that we should have an environment that's safe to breathe in? How many think there should be access to capital for business entrepreneurs who want to grow? How many think we should end the war in Iraq? Hands down. How many of you have ever been to a same-sex wedding? Same-sex wedding? About 7 of y'all. Now, how did that get in the middle of the agenda? I asked y'all about health care, jobs, education, housing, the war, and someone that's assigned to us an issue that ain't even on our top 10. Moses rebuilt the country with the 10 Commandments as the ethical foundation. And gay didn't make the top 10 hit parade. Whatever it is, it didn't make the top 10. Thank you, guys.